Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo CEO and founder Ashkan Karpis-Rushan to discuss Alphabet, ABCs of the internet. No, Alphabet being Google's parent company. They announced their quarterly earnings and they missed their targets. And then YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki wrote an article in which she outlined some challenges that YouTube is facing regarding copyright, demonetization, trending, etc. And you have a theory that these things are a little bit connected.
I think they are related in that if YouTube generated $15 billion last year, then imagine that their growth was that they did, I don't know, let's say that they were hitting 18 billion this year. So that means that a month they're targeting 1.5 billion. So over a quarter, that's 4.5 billion. Usually these companies like to surpass their targets. So let's say they're hoping to do 4.85 billion, which is a bit aggressive. And they probably came in below that at the YouTube level, and we'll explain why. But if Google, the parent company, missed by $1 billion, the target, could a material, meaning a meaningful amount of that $1 billion miss come from YouTube? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the whole billion miss was from YouTube. I think probably, maybe half of it was YouTube. But then you got to ask yourself, well, why is YouTube not missing its numbers? Usually when you don't miss why is YouTube missing its targets? If you don't hit your targets, the first question is, were the targets realistic, right? The second one, though, is assuming they were realistic, why didn't you hit them? YouTube, I feel, is still experiencing this existential crisis, meaning launched in 2005, 2006, Google bought it for $1.6 billion. And I feel like from 2005 till about 2008, 9, 10, whenever, the body of YouTube was changing, meaning the content on the platform was changing, the look, the functionality. And they brought in more and more experienced executives, parachuted them from Google as well as industry. And their state of mind started to change and how they wanted to project what YouTube was. Hence the $100 million investment in content to go lure the Wall Street Journals and the Reuters, most of which was a dud. That's deleted from, it's scrubbed from the history. It's not on Google for all intents and purposes. So you got the bodies changed and the minds changed. But the soul of Google has been undergoing this fight, this struggle. So I think to connect the dots between their numbers, then you say, well, why didn't they hit their numbers? Because advertisers love YouTube. YouTube is replacing television, more money flowing to mobile video than anything else. So maybe it's not a macro or systematic dynamic. Maybe it's a unique micro dynamic affecting YouTube. So I think Susan is a great figurehead in the options that Google has. Google is gonna go get somebody like a trusted lieutenant, and who better than Sergey Brin's former sister-in-law and the individual who rented out her garage to the duo early on. She's as much as family, and the New York Times article supported that. But so what is the struggle and what's the impact? So my fundamental takeaway, and there's a lot of people that don't like this, but I think they're kind of being in denial, is YouTube needs to change this one-size-fits-all approach. There was a quote that we used in a video that we did on Content ID coming from Warner Music that said YouTube is great at, and Content ID is great at picking up the dog on the skateboard or the goldfish in the toilet video, true UGC, that you, WatchMojo, are put in the same category. And everybody is in this one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. So I think YouTube, in this struggle for its soul to try to stay true to that broadcast yourself, that was the slogan until 2012, and then they dropped it. But they haven't necessarily come to terms with, well, what is YouTube? So I think what YouTube really needs to do is have this kind of entry-level gateway account that literally anybody, little Joey, can upload his videos, or Shelly could do her videos. But then they need to have this professional class of channels, which then would prevent so much of the spillover and the shit that goes on that then scares off advertisers. Because Google's already done this, right? Google has preferred for certain accounts to get better advertising, higher paid advertising, and then they have the normal advertising class. All citizens of the world have same fundamental rights, but you got to be 18 to go have a beer in a bar in at least our jurisdiction. Whereas if you're 16, you can't. I could vote at 18, but I can't. So I don't understand why all of a sudden YouTube goes, nope, I mean, I know the reason they want to preserve their 4 safe harbors of the DMCA, but I think that's ultimately what it is, which is if you're an advertiser, as much as you start to lean in on YouTube, you pull back. And the reason why you pull back is because there's no real way for an advertiser to determine what Wall Street Journal is, what WatchMojo is, and what William is doing on his channel. And I think if they address that, a lot of the pain points go away, but they want to pretend that there's still a UGC platform for the DMCA safe harbors.
Well, one of the articles that you sent, I thought was really interesting because it was basically, they changed the algorithm to de-emphasize like the conspiracy theory videos and all that kind of garbage. But that content really drives engagement, and so they're struggling with getting engagement. So do you think that they will continue down like the morally strong path, or do you think they'll follow the money?
In our Future of Media video in the Business Battleground series, we talk about breaking down the 3 C's: commerce, content, community, and then if you double down on content. So content, the irony of it is the hypocrisy that what users look for and watch, what marketers want to advertise and be associated with, and what distribution platforms want to carry, the common area between those 3 is very little. So just because advertisers may find conspiracy theories unsavory, who cares? The users will still be drawn to that.
I wasn't talking about it from an advertising point of view.
Oh no, I think the users will find it.
Like a good corporate citizen.
Well, they have to. I think, look, the second you start to swim in a pool with, we'll call it the Fortune 500 crowd, then you got to do certain things to appease them. And I think YouTube has, look, the New York Times, I'm quoting them, I'm not saying this. The only time Google seems to move really quickly is not even when Wall Street gives a damn, because given the class structure of the shares, Sergey and Larry control everything, so they could give 4 FUs up in the air to what Wall Street says, and more power to them. That's not a knock. Like they figured it out. But when marketers, because Google is 99% close to 99% relying on advertisers, it's just when Madison Avenue says, yo, we got a problem, and then all of a sudden everything is fixable. Then they're really quick at fixing things.
So it doesn't matter that they've like basically brought measles back or helped bring measles.
The measles, are we going to blame Google for measles?
Well, you could. They were part of it, theoretically.
You could blame Google for a lot of things. Look, ultimately it's an ad-supported ecosystem. So I think we need to stop this, stop pretending like when advertisers say jump, you don't say why, and you say how high, right? That's the reality. As much as I go, we don't have largely advertisers. We do what the users want. We do what we want to cover. Ultimately, it is an ad-funded ecosystem. And I think if you think it's not, then you're either dumb or you're in denial. Whichever one isn't good.
Right. Now, something else that they were saying is that they wanted at least half of their trending videos to come from like native YouTube creators. So not like trailers or Jimmy Fallon or whatever. Do we fall into that category for you? Like, are we YouTube creators?
I think we are, and I would hope so. I think that's relative to who you ask. I think if you ask, it's funny you mentioned Jimmy Fallon, but this goes back to why NBC hired Lily Singh, because they want to, that line is blurring. But I think if you ask your typical YouTuber, they may view us as we are NBC, right? I get that. But if you ask NBC, and actually when I did ask NBC on a panel, they view themselves as, no, we are NBC, you are all the rest on YouTube. Now, the reality is that those lines are blurring. The distribution screens are morphing, where you'll watch Game of Thrones on this, and you'll watch PewDiePie on that. So I think it depends who you ask. I think to YouTube, yes, we are still.
Are still what?
Are still a YouTube creator,
okay.
And we're not traditional media. But if you are, a makeup artist on YouTube, you view WatchMojo as, there was somebody that said it on Twitter, and it was a fan. They were like, the fact that the fact that PewDiePie is still giving T-Series a run for its money despite big corporations like conglomerates, global conglomerates like WatchMojo. I was like, I'll take that. Then when I said, to be fair, it's like we're a husband and wife duo that hired a bunch of people. We don't have outside investors. We're independent. They're like, I should have done my research. I'm a fan, and so I think it's who you ask. But I think to YouTube we are, but to the average YouTuber we may be more on the border.
Right. You brought up that Content ID video that we did.
Yes.
Is that online right now?
I think when this goes on, knock on wood, assuming Google doesn't shut down the internet for us, it should be on our core WatchMojo channel. We did publish it on on this channel, Context TV, I think Friday, April 26th, and there was a glitch. I mean, it was available as an unlisted video, but we couldn't make it go public. It wasn't available on any search results page or on the Context TV channel page, and it was frustrating. We couldn't add it to a playlist. And so we emailed YouTube, like just said, hey, I think there's a glitch here. And it was awkward because it's basically a video about their prized Content ID weapon of mass destruction copyright tool. But so long story short, then they're like, oh, we identified what the glitch is, we're fixing it. I'm like, okay, great, let us know. And then they're like, oh, sorry, the video's gone, you'll have to re-upload it. I'm like, what do you mean gone? So I don't know if it was a conspiracy or a coincidence, but we'll give them benefit of the doubt. But then once we said, instead of just republishing it to Context TV, we decided to publish it on the core Watch Mojo channel.
You screw with us, we'll come for you. We'll put it on the big channel.
It's like the Barbara Streisand effect.
The more you...
But I believe them. To be clear, we are not insinuating that they censored or took the video down. I think it was a platform-wide effect. I think it was just an awkward, and I tweeted about this, and I think 4 people shared it or whatever, a whole whopping 4 people. But I did basically say that, like, I'm not accusing them of anything, but this is when they can't even catch a break, when conspiracies do start. And they're like, hey, why did this one video go down?
Hey, let's do a conspiracy video, but no, I'm kidding.
There we go.
What do you guys think? Conspiracy or coincidence? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.